Hey, what's up? This is Todd Smith. I am back with another video. In this video, I want to talk about Behringer, the K2, my first impressions on this machine. You know, I've had the opportunity to play with it about a few afternoons now, a few sessions. So I feel it's fairly comfortable for me to have my first review, first impression on it. It's been a kind of a slow week because of Thanksgiving, family time, going out. Some of my family lives a state over, so that took some time. So it's been a kind of slow week in terms of being able to touch my gear. But when I did have time, I focused on the K2. And the thing I really have to say right away is this thing definitely lives up to the idea of being a dark synth, kind of an aggressive synth. It is just naturally really gnarly and just has this aggressive tone right out the gate, which for me, I thought was awesome. If I had to compare it to like something, I think it can very much match like the tone of what an electric aggressiveness of an electric guitar does naturally. This does that naturally, but in the synth world. It doesn't sound like an electric guitar. Obviously, it's a mono analog synth. But if you took that concept and that aggression that the electric guitar can make just so easily without really any thought, this can do the same in the synth land. I think that's a good way of putting it. Its layout, its design, in terms of the knobs, are super simple, super simplistic, which is awesome. Something I really, really like. You only have two oscillators. One wave can be active per oscillator, so very simple in that concept. I do like that pulse modulation on this synth. I think it sounds very good. I haven't played much with the ring modulation, but the fact that they do have a ring mod on here is awesome. Where you create a lot of width in the sounds, because you only have their two oscillators, each with one wave active, so it's not super beefy right out the gate, is your dual filter section really brings these sounds alive and really decides if you want something thinner, more tuned towards certain frequencies, or do you want something that just covers all the bases and is super thick, super wide, and has a lot of beefy low end and goes all the way up to the high end that you can start sweeping. It's really enables you to fine tune that sound very well. And one thing I really like about this filter is you can kind of decide where you want your bottom end to sit permanently with pretty much untouched, and then sweep the high end with, let's say, your second filter that has some resonance on it, and have basically your low end will be pretty much untouched, and you can sustain a constant, really thick low end bass while sweeping up in the higher end of the frequencies with some good resonance and not affect the low end at all, which is something not every synth can do as efficiently and as quick as this, and then just maintain that beefy low end while sweeping up in the higher frequencies is really cool. And then your ability to really choke sounds in terms of really narrowing the bandwidth of what you hear. It almost acts like a bandpass filter in a way. You're just able to really isolate sections of the sound. If you just really wanted the mid-range because your low end's taken your high end, and you just really wanted to focus on the mid frequencies, you can really dial that in, and it just gives you a lot of control of the sound in the mix, especially when you're working with multiple pieces of gear. It's very nice. In terms of modulation of the knobs, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I think this whole design, again, in terms of the knobs, is very simple. Where you start to get a little bit more complex is in the modulation sources of your inputs. And I started playing with a few patches myself within the first couple of days. I didn't go super nuts on the patching side. I kind of found a few that I really enjoyed and kind of manipulated those with The knobs, just getting used to the basis of this machine. One thing I really love that I found is that if I feed out into the signal out and do some other routing in here, I can get like this really saturated sound from it. And then you can control your low end, your high end cuts on that saturation, the signal, how high it is, and really kind of fine tune that either noise or saturation, whatever you're creating from this. It creates an extra layer on the sound, and it can really already add to the massive aggression that's already there. So you're already creating some pretty gnarly aggressive tones just with your bass build and how this is structured. Once you start adding in this, you can really get some nice stuff. I'm really enjoying it so far. I've played with really short, aggressive stuff, like low release, really snappy, but aggressive tones, really. It could definitely be an amazing lead synth in terms of just strong leads, because it's just definitely, it's a monster in my opinion. It definitely out the gate has its own sound compared to all the other Behringer monos. Yeah, it's a mono analog synth with very much the same characteristics of structure, but it definitely has its own feel in terms of sound, which is awesome. I'm very happy with my first impressions of the K2. I would say I still love the design, the black on gold. That's what really stood out to me right away, was the fact that black on gold. I think it's pretty mad sexy. But another surprise, guys. The Cobalt is coming today. I ordered the Cobalt and I didn't announce it on the channel. It's going to be my final mono for a long time. It's going to allow me to build a second 3-tier rack with the K2, the Cat, and the Cobalt. So I'm going to have the first wooden rack of the Model D, Neutron, and Pro 1. And then I'll have my second wooden rack with those mono synths. and I think that's pretty good for a while, guys. In terms of the mono synths, I'm covered on all the bases. I have all these different tones. They can all feed into each other. Besides the K2, which is kind of, he's a little goth, he's a little emo, he's a little loner. He's a little isolated. But super excited about the Cobalt. So you'll definitely be seeing some content on that on this channel very soon too. And there's another little present coming my way too, because it is Christmas time and I've wanted to expand my sequencing on my 707. There's limitations right now that I'm fighting all the time in terms of having just the 707 as my only sequencer. I have to use up a lot of tracks for external gear, and honestly, you're missing out on a lot of the power of the 707 if you do that. One of the strongest parts of the 707 is the fact that if you use the internal sounds, every single clip can have a totally different sound with totally different effects, totally different build. So you're not just, with 8 tracks, you're not stuck to 8 sounds. Like every time you swap a different clip, it can have a completely different sound. Once you start sending MIDI out, you lose that capability. You're stuck to that one instrument tied to that one channel. So I'm really looking to expand my ways to send out to gear, and I'm pretty sure I solved that. I have a piece coming. I'm gonna save that one as a surprise, because we already have the Cobalt here, we have the K2, we have a lot of things to explore. What do you think I got? What piece did I get to expand that? I would like to think, what do you think I got? I would like to hear down below. Stay positive, stay creative, support each other. Peace.